Hello and welcome to Tip-Off Draft Day from New York City. I'm David Locke. It is Tip-Off on Locked On Jazz. Are you ready for the day we've all been waiting for? I've got a ton of news, lots of information for you, and we'll break it all down, plus take your questions. It's all coming up on today's edition of Tip-Off. Bam, bam, pow, 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 pow. Boom, boom, boom. I got a big drum set for draft day. Of course, my voice just decided not to play along this morning. Maybe it has to do with the 5 hours worth of stuff I did yesterday. Hope everyone's well. Thank you for tuning in. Draft day party today, World Cup party today. I may watch my first soccer game of my entire life today. I'm going to go to Times Square and see if they have something on. It might be how I can manage watching soccer. We'll see if that turns out to be true. All right, let me just right out of the chute get you guys some facts. Actually, let me right out of the chute get a water. All right, let me get you some facts right out of the way. Let's start this thing. The mass audience has not clicked in yet. I feel like I probably should pause for a second for those who are live and want all the information, but we will move forward. Let me give you a programming note. There's a ton of stuff yesterday. Jabari, Andrew Wiggins, Aaron Gordon, Julius Randle, Marcus Smart. It's all out there for you and available to be had. So feel free to grab that, listen to it. 2 interviews. I'll be on with DJ and PK today at 9 as well. So there's lots of draft information for you. Here's the plan in regards to coverage. I'm going to keep the storyline up until about noon, or actually a little later probably. Once I hit the Barclays Center, I'm going to load a new storyline that's just draft day that reacts to every pick. Now, it's hard for me to react to picks after number 5 because I'll be with our draftee. I'll be with him the whole time. So that page will probably fall apart a little bit at that point. All right, looks like we got a ton of questions. Looks like we've got some people that have checked in and viewing it. I don't know if you guys are getting my video. If somebody wants to tell me in chat room, it's not up on my end. It is now. So let's roll. Let's start with the biggest story of all, Cavaliers Jazz trade talks. Here's what I've learned pretty consistently, actually, over the last 3 days, but then just recently with a little bit more clarity. There have been numerous talks. There have been inquiries. There have been discussions, and the Jazz are trying to make a solid effort to get to the number 1 pick of this draft. However, Derek Favors is not, let me repeat, Derek Favors is not a key part of these discussions in any way, shape, or form. Whether it's because Cleveland with Anderson, Varejao, Tristan Thompson, and Zeller don't want Derek Favors, or whether it's because the Jazz don't want to move him, or whether it's because the Cavaliers don't want the $11 million of cap space now that LeBron is out there. Derek Favors has not and is not a key part of any discussions between the Jazz and Cavaliers, despite the numerous reports from what I've been told now by more than one person in the last few days. It's kind of murmured out recently and it became more clear. So let me reiterate that to you. The talks are taking place between the Cavaliers and the Jazz. The Jazz are interested in getting the number 1 pick. However, Derek Favors is not a key component in those discussions between the Cavaliers and the Jazz. Now, why was his name out there? You know, frankly, in the media world, it could be because one person made it up and we all just followed it without having any idea because it's Jazz's best player, and so it just seemed natural. Could have been the Cavaliers leaked it out to see if somebody else around the league suddenly said they wanted Derek Favors to create a 3-team trade. I don't know, but it has not been an integral part of any of those discussions. Second thing, it's not going to get done. It's always a possibility. Things can always change. I don't want to make the definitive statement just to wow anyone. The feeling as of this morning is that the chances of the Utah Jazz getting to 1, despite the efforts, seems limited to very unlikely in numerous ways. Chad Ford just reported that Dante Exum decided not to fly to Cleveland, despite Cleveland's request. I don't know entirely what that means. I think Chad Ford also reported that Cleveland was calling around with Orlando's picks of 4 and 12 to see what that might get them somewhere in the trade market. But from a Jazz standpoint, those discussions have taken place. Favors is not an integral part of this discussion, and the chances of the deal getting done and the Jazz getting to number one as we sit here at 8:10 Mountain Time, 10:10 Eastern Time in the morning on Friday, on draft day morning, are slim, are very, very slim. Now let's move to the draft day, understanding that that is the likelihood that the Jazz are holding at 5. The key for the Utah Jazz to have the draft day work to some extent how they want is that Embiid really needs to move. It needs to go at 3. If Embiid does not go at 3, there is a chance the Jazz worst case scenario could happen in those first 4 picks. Embiid being gone is really disappointing. I am told there is absolutely no chance from numerous people in the league that Dante Exum will get to 5. Philadelphia and Orlando are both not passing on him. It seems almost impossible that would take the place from numerous people around the league. That Exum is, I know I'm full of good news today, that Exum is not going to get to 5. Looking at the Jazz drafting situation, I can see scenarios where they take Aaron Gordon. I can see scenarios where Marcus Smart is still a viable option. And I can see scenarios where Julius Randle is still an option. Julius Randle's foot may not be as significant an injury as Joel Embiid's, but it's not made up. It is real. There is an issue there. It may not be career-threatening. It probably, though, needs to have some work done on it in some fashion from numerous people around the league on that. So, that probably quells a little bit of where Julius Randle is in this draft, and that's probably a little bit of a reason why. But again, Dante Exum, nobody sees it. The Jazz really need Embiid to go to somewhere in the top 4. The medical records on Embiid are in the hands of Cleveland, Milwaukee, and Philadelphia. Not Orlando, not Utah, Boston, and Los Angeles. Now, there's 2 ways to think about this. One could be, hey, if they're willing to send the medicals to Boston and LA, then doesn't that mean they're good and we should take the gamble? If they were good, they would never have had to be sent to Boston and LA. Right? Does that make sense? If they're good enough, Philadelphia is taking Embiid at 3. Or frankly, 1 or 2 might still take him. They're not good. Obviously, I don't have anything official because of the various legal things, but everything I'm hearing is they're not good. There's problems with the foot, the back's real, and there are issues from the years in Cameroon that are make Joel Embiid's medicals not great. Again, the key for the Jazz, though, really would be if Philadelphia takes him at 3, would help the Jazz draft day a good deal. The Embiid slipping down really slides the Jazz to 6th in the draft because it was never expected that Embiid would ever be there. At 23, some names to think about at 23. The superior athlete, KJ McDaniel, out of Clemson, should probably be taught about there. Glenn Robinson III out of Michigan should probably be talked about there. CJ Wilcox out of Pleasant Grove, possibility he'll be there in the 2nd round pick, but why wait? Probably should be talked about there. Tyler Ennis or Shabazz Napier is going to slip to that point from what I'm hearing. That should probably be talked about. Depending what happens with Dario Saric, if Saric drafts that so far that he pushes Nurkic, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but Nurkic down, that's probably somebody you should think about at 23. The Jordan Adams story is simply not true. The amount of crap that is being sent out there right now is stunning. Um, it is simply not true. They did not promise Jordan Adams at 23. Who's going to slip on draft day? I think there's a chance that Noah Vonleh could have a very disappointing draft day of the top 10. I think Tyler Ennis could have a very disappointing draft day of 10 through 20, or Shabazz Napier. One of those two, it's not lining up correctly for them. All right, so that's the latest on the draft. If you're just tuning in and just joining us, and there's a larger live audience than usual, I know most of you watch this on delay in some capacity in somewhere, but on this draft day, there's more urgency. The lead today is that the Jazz and Cavs have talked. Those talks have been ongoing. Derek Favors has not been an integral part of the center of these discussions, whether it's because the Cavaliers with Anderson Varejao, a duplicate in Tristan Thompson, and Zeller are uninterested, or because the Jazz don't want to move him, or because the Cavaliers don't want $11 million. I'm not certain on that, but I do know that there has not been a huge amount of discussion involving Derek Favors. In fact, he has not been the centerpiece of this discussion in any way, shape, or form. That has been that is a runaway train that is not accurate. The Jazz have been in these discussions. It's seeming less and less likely. The second news story: Dante Exum unlikely to get to the Utah Jazz at 5. In fact, most people have said it's almost impossible. There are scenarios I'm seeing in which Aaron Gordon gets drafted, Julius Randle gets drafted, and Marcus Smart gets drafted by the Utah Jazz in this draft. All right. Rumors are out there. I tell you, it's been very eye-opening to be as connected here and hear how incorrect some of our rumors have been with things, and frankly that I assumed were right, like that they made sense, they vibed, they seemed right on things. The Kings 8 is supposed to be in play. The Lakers 7 is supposed to be in play, and the Bulls picks are certainly in play. We'll see whether the Jazz jump up, try to get something done. Yesterday, 2 deals went down. The Knicks got Jose Calderon and Shane Larkin. They traded Raymond Felton. Frankly, in any deal in which you trade Raymond Felton is a good deal for you. So I'll take that on the Knicks end. I'm surprised the Mavs moved Calderon. It was such a nice combination with Monte Ellis last year. They do pick up Tyson Chandler, but I don't think any of us know who Tyson Chandler is at this point of his career. Houston's GM Daryl Morey is unbelievable. He got a first rounder protected in the lottery and protected in the bottom third as well, with reverse protection for them. In exchange for Omer Ashik, he now has $12.3 million of cap space. He moves Jeremy Lin, and they're at $20.6 million of cap space. If anyone tells you that they have a room for a Max Carmelo or Max LeBron, that is not true. The most they can get is 20.6. Their maxes are both over 22. New Orleans now has Ashik, Anderson, and Anthony Davis as a front line. Woo! That is a big time front line. Allows Anthony Davis to play out a little bit. Allows Anderson to stretch the floor. That's a pretty exciting move by New Orleans. If they could just figure out a way to get rid of Eric Gordon and maybe Drew Holiday as their point guard, they'd probably be all right. But the idea that Daryl Morey got someone to take the $8 million cap hold and $15 million of contract of Omer Ashik and didn't have to give up anything else and instead got back a protected first-round draft pick is stunning. Wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't move that first-round draft pick along with Jeremy Lin at some point in time to Logan, I need you to mute yourself.
How do I do that?
I don't know, but you need to do it now before I have. There, I got you. Sorry about that. So that's an amazing deal. They are moving Jeremy Lin away from getting the cap space. All right, that I think is all of the news that I have for you. Let's go to the questions here. Hope you're well. I'll reset for those of you that have just joined live and have missed kind of the big news I will make it for you. A reminder, by the way, to lock in your predict the picks to win Jazz season tickets and a 1-year Mercedes-Benz lease. That's all at UtahJazz.com. All right, let's go to Jason Lamb. Are you sold on Wiggins Parker are worth more than what they're proposed to be giving up? I'm not. If they're still going to be bottom 5 team again, won't we have better chips to trade next June? Maybe one of our current guys takes a huge step. That guy would be Alec Burks. But then he's a restricted free agent like Gordon Hayward is. So it'd be difficult. Maybe Gordon takes a step, but I figure it's Alec Burks. Are you sold that Wiggins and Parker? I talked to somebody in the league yesterday who said neither of them will ever be top 10 players in the league. Talked to another guy in the league last night who said to me that they're franchise pieces. The Bucks are not going to move their pick no matter what they're offered because if they're offered LeBron, but which can't be. But I mean, because they think he's a franchise, they think they're franchise pieces. So there's probably some mixed opinion on it. At some point, you've got to move out of asset allocation mode and into acquiring the key pillars of the foundation. I don't think it's going to happen tonight. I think from a Jazz standpoint, fan standpoint, what has probably been good and been eye-opening is we see the plan coming together. In other words, we see that we have all these assets, we've accumulated them. At some point, we're going to make the next jump. Here was the first window by which we could do it. We've made a considerable effort. We've been in the discussions. We're not scared of doing it. It's not going to come together from every indication I have, but you can see where, and it's going to be hard to get it to ever come together, but you can see where the effort is being made, where that's it, and that's the plan. You're seeing the plan come to try to be executed, and it just hasn't happened yet. Will it be able to be executed down the road because you have more assets? Maybe that's what it's going to take. Jason Lamb. At 5, Smart is 1A for me. Aaron Gordon is 1B. If his shot is better than Rondo or Wall, isn't that good enough given everything else he brings? In my opinion, being able to disrupt the opponent's team point guard does wonders to a team defense. Smart is wider and shoots better than Michael Carter-Williams. I think Smart's better than Michael Carter-Williams. I thought he was better than Michael Carter-Williams last year. I think there's an argument that Smart is the analytical choice. Smart and Trey together would be probably a little difficult for Quinn. I think that'd be a tough start for Quinn's career as a head coach to have to have those two guys in camp together fighting for the team. Flip side of that, the argument could be that nobody's ever pushed Trey Burke. He got the Michigan job as a freshman. He had it as a sophomore. He got handed this job without any pressure. Now he suddenly has somebody busting his ass, and maybe we'd see Trey Burke amp up a little bit and become a better player because of it. But it's a duplication a little bit. They're both point guards. Frankly, the concern on Marcus Smart with his personality is if he's not as good as everyone thinks he's going to be and he has that personality, then that becomes disruptive. If he's as good as everyone thinks he is and he has that same personality, then that becomes leadership and becomes an attitude and becomes kind of a personality of the team. It's very funny how those two things work, so you better make sure you really believe he's going to be good enough. But I think there's a legitimate chance that Marcus Smart goes 5 to the Utah Jazz. And I think it gets interesting. And then the question has to immediately be asked, it will be by everybody, is do you then move Trey? Do you just flip it and give it to Marcus Smart and see what you can get for Trey? Someone said to me on Trey Burke, you get the 20s. If that's the case, then no, you don't. But, does Trey in 23 get you somewhere? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know the answer to that. Let's go to David Leakey. Just want to say thank you for all your work and enjoying reading and listening to everything. Particularly great on international fans. Thank you. Oh, well, I wonder where you're from. I love the worldwide element of this. It's fun. Thank you very much. We haven't talked a lot that I've seen about the Jazz possibly pursuing the number 3 pick. Are the Jazz interested enough in Exum that they would move number 5 and a small piece to do it? I'm sure the discussions have been had. Philadelphia is willing to just acquire any asset possible. It's an interesting possibility. Does Philadelphia have somebody they really want at 5? Is Philadelphia going to take Embiid at 5? Knows Orlando doesn't have the medical. Knows Utah doesn't have the medical. Utah goes and jumps to 3 and takes Exum? It's not a bad idea at all, Tony. What does it cost? Trey Burke, Alec Burks, Ennis Canner, number 23. Can't trade Gordon. Probably wouldn't trade Faves for that. Um, Warriors pick first round next year or 2017. Probably not going to do that. It's unprotected just to get 3 spots. Next year's first, you wouldn't do it. So the question is, what are you willing to do it with? Right? So is it 23 is really the piece that gets you to 5? Maybe. And maybe they take it. Maybe they just say, okay, 23 doesn't have huge value, but maybe they take it. Let me stop here for a second because there's one other thing I meant to do today that I forgot. And I will tweet all this out, but let's make sure. In fact, I will share it for those of you that are watching, which is a big number today. I will do a screen share so you can see it. This is a project that I've worked on over the years. There's a subjectivity level to it, not denying that at all, in which, that's too big. But this is what you should reasonably expect out of each draft pick. And did I just mute myself in some capacity? Yes, I did. There we go. I'm back. Sorry about that. This is what you should expect out of each draft pick. Let me make sure you're having it. Okay. This is between 1997 and 2010. I might adjust it slightly today. I'll go back through some of it, but I did some of it last night. And I don't really do. I'm not sure if I'm going to do 2011. That gets pretty close. That's only 2 years. So if you draft 1 through 5, you have a 17% chance of getting a All-Pro, a 34%, because you combine these two numbers together, of getting an All-Star. That includes the All-Pros. And a 34 plus 63% chance of getting a starter. And a 83% chance of getting a rotation player. The numbers in yellow, by the way, if you're looking at this chart, are the numbers of percentage of chances you'll get a non-rotation player. Okay? So if you draft 11 and beyond in an NBA draft in the first round, 54% of all players become non-regular rotation players. Between interesting 11 to 15 is actually got a bigger bust rate than any other period of the draft. So 1 through 5, you have a 34% chance of getting an all-star. 1 and 3, so 2 out of probably 2 guys this draft will be all-stars. In all likelihood, everyone thinks that would be Jabari Parker and Andrew Wiggins. Maybe it's Aaron Gordon. Maybe it's Dante Exum. Maybe it's Joel Embiid. 6 through 10, you have a 9% chance of an All-Pro, an 18% chance of an All-Star, and 6 through 10, you have a 52% chance of a starter. 11 through 15, no All-Pro, no All-Stars since 1997. I'm sure there's probably some player who had 1 All-Star appearance, and I just don't classify him as an All-Star. It's somewhat subjective, so don't email me and say, what about this guy? But you got the gist. 14% of picks between 11 and 15 ever become a starter. So less than 1 out of 5 in those picks. 16 through 20, you have a 22% chance of getting a starter. 1 out of 5. So one of those picks, 16 through 20, becomes a starter. It's why I like C.J. Wilcox and Glenn Robinson III for the Jazz in the 23rd pick. 21 through 30, 2% chance of an all-star, 18% chance as a starter. 49% chance of a rotation player. And again, after the 11th pick of a draft, you have a 16% chance of getting a starter, a 1% chance of getting an all-star, So we're talking about 20 picks, 1 out of every 5 drafts, you'll get an all-star. Right? You got a 17% chance of getting, well, let's call it a 20% chance of getting a starter. That's too high, but because that's not accurate, but let's just go with it just for easy math. That means there are probably 3 or 4 starters after the 11th pick in this draft. This is why I love the fact the Jazz traded up for Trey Burke last year. It's why I don't like the idea of them trading back this year. Just don't believe in it. Numerically, don't believe in it. They might do it, by the way. That is still in play. So those are the numbers of success of draft picks. Don't kid yourself on what we're talking about. And don't kid yourself about all second round picks. Only 16% of all second round picks make rotation. Sorry, a bunch of texts are coming in. Update your Jazz app. Happy birthday to Rudy Gobert. And my daughter has a golf tournament that I don't get to participate in. I guess there was no breaking news there in any way, shape, or form. But at this point, you check it. All right, let's go back to Jason with another question. When asked, Aaron Gordon said that the other rookie he would love to play with in this year's draft was Marcus Smart. That's interesting. That's a great question. People asked that yesterday. I wonder who asked that question. If you can get in the chat room, Jason, let me. Maybe you can't because you're not on the. That's a. That's an interesting question. I wish I had asked that actually of players. That's a neat question. Big men take a long time to develop in the NBA. In most cases, do we really want to give up Favors? Could he not be a franchise pillar? I doubt it. Honestly, I doubt he'll be a franchise pillar. I think he's a really nice player. Maybe he's your third best. We just have a collection of third best. Maybe, in a more open offense with a more pick and roll and less post up. I don't feel like I think we've tried to mold him into something I don't think he's been very good at. My really big concern, and I'm a measurement guy, my big concern on Derek is if he's a center, he's really small. He's got to learn. He's got to become. He thinks he's a power forward. The team has played him as a center. He needs to figure out how to be a power forward. In this day and age, I'm not entirely sure what that is. Could he be a franchise pillar? Maybe a third pillar. Maybe I'm being too. I have a hard time with Derek, guys, because I like him so much that I think I kind of almost like you would your own kid. You beat him down a little bit just because I don't want to be so biased. I mean, really, he's one of my favorite guys. I don't want to be so biased on him that I seem like a homer, and I don't analyze him correctly. But that's my thought. For those just tuning in, let me update you on the update of kind of what I've learned over the last, really actually 48 to 72 hours. The Jazz and Cavaliers have, in fact, been in numerous talks, not a surprise, about the number 1 pick. Derek Favors has not. Derek Favors has not been an integral part of or a centerpiece to any of those discussions. In fact, one person said to me he hasn't even been discussed. I find that hard to believe because I think you're just discussing rosters, and so I don't want to go that far, but I will tell you that one person told me he has not even been discussed. More importantly, I think the answer is that this could very well be that Cleveland has Tristan Thompson, as one person said to me, Cleveland's Tristan Thompson, Anderson, Varejao, and Zeller. There's no reason why they want Derek Favors. This is craziness. And that was somebody who talked to somebody from Cleveland. So that seems to me to be a fairly good. But anyway, those talks have taken place. Favors is not a centerpiece of the discussions. That is clear. It is unlikely that the Jazz are able to get a deal done for the number 1 pick. Embiid is the key for the Jazz draft day. The medicals are out. Cleveland has them. Milwaukee has them. Philadelphia has them. Boston has them, and the Lakers have them. The Jazz in Orlando do not have Embiid's medicals. The idea that the medicals of Embiid would mean that the fact that 1, 2, and 3 have them mean it's a good sign. Equally, argument is that because of the fact that 5 and 6 have them means that whatever 3 saw was, or excuse me, 6 and 7 have them, that whatever 3 saw is not good. So it goes both ways. I'm hearing no chance that Dante Exum gets to 5. I can write out scenarios where the Jazz draft Aaron Gordon, draft Julius Randle, and draft Marcus Smart. Julius Randle's foot is not as serious as Embiid's, but is probably needs something to be done to it through numerous people. Wait 1 second for real life. Hi there, love. I am doing my podcast. Is everything all right? Hey, how are you? I love you. Can I call you back in a few minutes while you're driving to your golf tournament? Okay. Love you. Bye. Sorry, real life on draft day checked in. Any chance Jazz move up with their second pick or purchase somehow a high enough pick to draft Sark? Possible. Do people know anything about Sark? Sark is a non-shooting 6'10 small forward, good passer, kind of Tony Kukoc-esque. I mean, frankly, if we draft Aaron Gordon, they're pretty similar. Not as good an athlete at all, but he is not. We think Europeans, we just think knockdown shooter. He is not that at all. I love this, by the way. I was talking to a national. You guys got to be aware of some of this stuff. I was talking to a national NBA guy who I really respect and does great work. And we were talking, he goes, well, I've never seen, and he's telling me about Noah Vonleh, and I was like, I don't know about that. And suddenly he goes, well, you know what? I've actually really never seen him. I'm like, you just told me a bunch of stuff about him. I've heard you on interviews about him. And then you say, you know what? Actually, I've never seen him. I would like to pride myself that for months on end, I told you I'd never seen him. I've now seen him. Scott Paris, Cleveland and Orlando nowhere on a possible deal from one, and for the number one pick, team sources tell Yahoo Sports total BS, one executive says. Probably true. I mean, the Derek Favors stuff is evidently total BS from people I trust. The media on some of this stuff is not great. And what happens is one person says it or reports it, questionably how accurate, and we all just run with it. Because it's great fodder, and we've got 24-hour news cycles, and we talk about it the whole time, and I got to do this damn podcast every day, and other guys got to do talk shows, and other people got to write stories, and everyone's got to tweet. So everyone just goes with crap before any of us actually find out. And frankly, the reason is most of us don't have access to find out if something's true. I don't have access to Cleveland or Orlando as a reporter. I'd need somebody who's talked to Cleveland or talked to Orlando to get that information. I'm now one removed. For all I know, they're reading Hoops Hype too and telling me stuff that it's kind of a crapshoot, and it's kind of a lot of crap. I mean, frankly, the Jordan Adams story on the Jazz is not true, and evidently Favors has not been a key part of the talks. And as this has been told to me numerous times over the last 48 hours, I finally started to believe it, and then started to walk through it, and then it made sense. And then I got it multiple places. It was kind of progressively, because I don't think Favors is really part of this. Next person I talked to around Lake, doesn't really make sense to me Favors is part of this. Next person I talked to, Favors is not a part of this. Oh, okay. If Jazz were to take Randle at 5, what does he bring to the table that Cantor doesn't? I think I think they're duplicates a little bit. I agree with you on that, Rich. So he's talent. But I do think that they're a little duplicates. I think Randall's probably a little tougher. Might be a little better passer. Might be a little quicker. I haven't watched a huge amount of Julius Randle. I would say that I have 3 pieces of Julius Randle video sitting on my computer that I may be watching from midnight to 4 a.m. tonight before I leave for my flight back to Salt Lake City. There's a chance of that. From David Smith, thanks for all the amazing draft day coverage. Oh, thank you. You do good work as well. Keep it up. Thoughts on moving 23 and another piece to get in the teens? I think that's a desired outcome by the Jazz. I think that's a desired outcome by the Jazz if they can. Okay, so one Yahoo person just reported what that guy just said. Now, Woj has just reported Cleveland and Orlando have exchanged proposals on number 1 pick, but there's nothing that's gathered traction, sources tell Yahoo. Okay, so did the Jazz find a way to get back in the mix? But again, I'm hearing Favors is not a part of those discussions. Could he become a part of those discussions? Probably. I have a feeling that if tonight we hear the Jazz have moved to our first round pick from next year's Gone, your thoughts? It's a huge piece. If we trade next year's first round pick, whatever we're get, I think that's our biggest piece we have. But that's also we're into the allure of the unknown. That's the allure of the unknown. I think that's a massive piece, and it's a hard one to trade. So we better know what we're getting. Scott Paris again. Where does Exum fall into the 10,000 minutes played test compared to Embiid? Is he farther along? Yeah, he's been playing his whole life. His father was a player at North Carolina. He grew up with the game. He just happened to do it in Australia. Um, by the way, has he even scratched surface? I hate this concept that the guy who's inexperienced hasn't scratched the surface and somehow gets better. It just isn't true. There's just no data that proves that. I don't know if that's what Scott means, but that concept is just not true. Chad Ford this morning said talks between the Jazz, Sixers, and Magic started heating up last night. What are you hearing from there? I mean, they all heat up right now. The Jazz are working hard with the Cavaliers to try to make a deal. What I've been told from numerous people is that Derek Favors is not the centerpiece of that deal and has not really been discussed. But that doesn't mean the Jazz are talking to Cleveland. Jazz are trying hard. We are seeing the first step of asset allocation, trying to move to acquire, using those assets to acquire key pieces. Guys, it really hurts us that Gordon Hayward is not signed. If now I don't know if I would do this deal. I've had numerous people in the league tell me, "Hey, if Hayward signed, you're Hayward and 5 for 1, boom, done." Cleveland taking a second. But I'm not sure I do that. I think Hayward's a pillar. I think Hayward's could be a third pillar on this franchise. Favors probably could be too now. I think. Back to the previous question. But so I'm not sure I do that deal, but could be done. That hurts us. Frankly, look at them. Look at their roster. Why would they want Favors? And they would want Hayward. They have C.J. Miles as their small forward. Hayward would be incredible for them. They'll probably make a run at Hayward in restricted free agency. So that would probably get the deal done. But we don't have that deal. We can't do it. He's not signed. You can get complicated. You could probably go back channels right now with Gordon, find out what Cleveland's willing to offer. I'm sure this is probably illegal. Find out what Cleveland's willing to offer. Gordon and Bartelstein agree on it. Bartelstein represents about 3 or 4 clients, McDermott and others in this draft, so maybe he picks up the phone to talk to Cleveland about some other things. They draft the number 1 pick. They don't sign the number 1 pick. They offer sheet to Hayward, then do a sign and trade where it comes back. Jazz rescind a bunch of players to get under the cap, and that deal, well, we wouldn't have to be under the cap. Cleveland would have to be under the cap to offer it. Yeah. So that something of that mechanism, but the key is Hayward would have to decide he wants to go play in Cleveland. If he does, it changes. It's an alteration of his opinion of Cleveland in the past. I would share that with you. From David Smith. Thoughts on Houston, New Orleans trade? Would that make Ryan Anderson available? I don't think so. I think Ryan Anderson fits that as the third big beautifully. I think it might make Jason Smith available, but he might be a restricted free agent or free agent anyway. John Smith. My man Wesley is back. I just need to mute him. Last year, you predicted the Jazz would draft Rudy Gobert in a mock draft, which they did. As of right now, make your prediction of who to the draft take at 5 and 23. Thoughts? If we hold at 5 and 23, we take Aaron Gordon and that's the same position. Aaron Gordon and C.J. Wilcox. We go Pac-12. 76ers taking Embiid at 3 as a move to keep him or hope Cavs flinch and make a deal for Wiggins. Possible. You're on it. You understand what's going on. Locke drops a bomb to start the show. He may watch a soccer game. Blue Moon last night. It would be the first one I've ever. All right. I have no problem with all of you who love the game. I'm happy for you. You're having a great World Cup experience. I watched the Olympics. It's very similar. I watch a bunch of sports that are stupid during the Olympics. I didn't say, yeah, I did. I didn't mean it, but if you're so freaking sensitive, then just be that sensitive. I don't get it. It's on me. I don't get it. I think it's really boring. I don't like it. I sat down at the beginning of the World Cup. I watched 22 minutes of England Italy to try to engage, to try to get it. I get it's a world event, and after 22 minutes, I just had to move on. Okay? I played college baseball. I think it's boring too. I got it. Don't take it as some personal front. Soccer fans are the seriously get their panties in a bunch more than any group of people I've ever been around in my life. So don't freak out on me on this. I may, however, being in New York City, the center of America, against Germany, if it's on in the Times Square big room, I may go, or in some pub here, I may go watch it for the experience. Could you not trade Hayward to Cleveland? He becomes Cleveland's unrestricted free agent. No, they offered him. They offered him a. They made his offer last night, and you cannot. You can. I do not believe you can do that. From Matt Ott, I am not a huge Derek Favors guy, but I think he's solid and improving, and it's way too early to give him a two or three other assets away for an alleged franchise transformer player like Jabari. Some say he's Carmelo. I see Billy Owens with a Temple recommend. That's not terrible, actually. Can't pass like Billy Owens. Billy Owens. Wow. That's I will be honest. Billy Owens. Billy 6'8", 220. Number 3 pick in 1991. Wow. Good career actually. Didn't shoot the three. I mean, Billy Owens just didn't turn out to be a winner and just turned to be a pain in the ass. He's better than Billy Owens, isn't he? Billy Owens averaged 15, 8, and 3 for much of his career. In the up and down Golden State, I don't think that's terrible. I think that's the bad case scenario. I am not. All right, so here's my thing on Jabari, and I may not get it. People I really trust and believe tell me he's going to score 20. Some tell me he's going to score 25 a game in this league. I'm. I felt empty watching his Duke play. Um, I talked about this. I saw the stuff that makes him great. If you watch my video, I mean, boom, catch, quick move, power, gets his shoulder on someone, kills him. But I did feel empty, and he wasn't good yesterday. Go listen to my interview with him. Listen closely. My interview with him yesterday, it was strange. He did not come off well yesterday, and the first time I've ever interacted with him. So I am not in total disagreement with you on this, but I think we're on the wrong side of the fence, is all I would say. My big board would be Wiggins 1. I haven't done it because I actually don't know where to put Jabari. I mean, 20 to 25 points a game in this league is a big deal, right? I mean, it's a really, really big deal. Don't underestimate that for 1 minute. And I think I do. I really think that part of me underestimates the value of a guy scoring points in this league. Um, Sometimes I just think, I love efficiency. Kevin Pelton and I argue about this all of the time. Kevin Pelton talks to me about how I need to do everything off of replacement level, and I do everything off of league average. And I like highly efficient players. I get lost in the value. I don't do a good job about the value of Al Jeffersons of the world. Um, that that's probably on me um, because I I get I don't. I mean that's just I get worried about efficiency and this and that and doing and other things and I lose that essence a little bit and probably need to fix that in my analysis of players. And so that might be what's going on. 19 players in the NBA last year averaged 20. 5 players averaged 25. If he can do that, it's a pretty big deal. And every single player who averaged 20 last year, other than Kevin Love, DeMarcus Cousins, and Anthony Davis and Isaiah Thomas, were on playoff teams. Oh, and Goran Dragic. So there's some. Um, I think Wiggins can be great. By the way, Wiggins without Embiid to close the year, 20 points a game. 5, 6 rebounds a game. He was great. You watch his last 8 games, he's great. So Wiggins is one on my board. I'm not sure. I guess Jabari is 2. 3, I'm going to put Aaron Gordon. 4, Dante Exum. 5, Marcus Smart. 6, Julius Randle. That foot's concerning. 7, Noah Vonleh, maybe? And then I haven't watched enough guys. And I don't have Embiid on my list. Rick Hard, I mean, gut feel, how often do drafts have superstars in them, and does this draft have one? I think there is a 17% chance that there is a superstar in the first 5 picks, and I think there's a 9% chance that there's a superstar in picks 6 through 10. I believe in the numbers. So that means there's a one player in this draft is a superstar. I think it's Andrew Wiggins, but frankly, my second most likely to be that guy might be Aaron Gordon. And frankly, I'm probably being silly. It's probably Jabari because he can score. I've heard Sacramento and LA are both looking to trade picks. If Smart or Payton are available, what's the likelihood we move for one of those picks? What do you think it would take to make the move and keep our number 5? I think the only reason we do that, I think it would take a lot. I can't imagine LA. I don't know what LA and Sacramento would want that we have. You have to look at their rosters. I mean, they might want favors. I'm probably not willing to do that for that pick. Maybe they want Cantor. Then you have to decide whether you're willing to do that for that pick. That depends a lot on what you think of Gobert. And maybe they want Trey if you're going to draft Marcus Smart. I don't like Peyton. I'm not on the Peyton bandwagon. I know Chad is. I don't like him. I think he can't shoot at all. I haven't watched a lot of him either, though, in fairness. Greetings from Turkey. Dante Exum refused to work out for the Cavs today. Will it affect trade situations for the Cavs? In other words, is it a reason not to take him? No, probably not. And probably an unfair request by the Cavaliers. He's in the middle of his draft festivities. He's doing stuff with his family. Everyone's here. I walked by him yesterday afternoon, or maybe the day before. He's got his whole family here. Probably an unfair request by the Cavaliers. And he's probably not, prepared there, that kind of stuff. Do the Jazz still have a trade exception as an asset, or when do they use it? Might have expired, but I don't even know which one you're talking about. I don't know. I'm an idiot. I don't have any idea. All right, final thing from Nathan Harker. I think the Jazz play Gordon at the 3. Once he develops a jump shot, he could be deadly. There have been comparisons to a more athletic Kawhi Leonard. I think he's a more athletic. I think he's a better Andre Karolinko. I think he's an Andre Karolinko, Sean Marion player with a chance to being better. I think he could be great. I like him a lot. I'm a fan. So we'll see. All right, final thing. Again, Jazz and the Cavaliers continue talks. Derek Favors has not been a centerpiece of those conversations. Chance of getting that pick seems very unlikely at this point. Talking to people about how the draft's going to play out. Embiid is the key for the Jazz. Hopefully, he goes before 4. The medical records are in the hands of 1, 2, and 3, 6 and 7. Orlando and the Jazz do not have them. And Dante Exum seems as though there's very little chance that he will get to the Jazz at 5. I can break down scenarios where I see Aaron Gordon, Julius Randle, or Marcus Smart being in Salt Lake City tomorrow for a press conference. Have a good one. That is today's edition of Tip Off.